Hi everyone, today I'm here with my December wrap up. I managed to read 8 books in the month of December, 3 of which were audiobooks though. So I'm going to start with one of the audiobooks and I am going to tell you the book, but I am going to tell you about the books in the order that I read them in. So the first one was the audiobook and that was Empath, the Survival Guide for Highly Sensitive People. That was a non-fiction book and I'm interested in this topic. I'm always interested in like psychological books, non-fiction books, and that was only about 3 hours long or something like that. It was interesting, but it did feel like it was more of a surface level book. So like if you want to read more about empathy and empaths, you'll have to probably read something else, because this was literally felt more like an introduction and probably more of a subjective point of view, if you know what I mean. But it was, like I said, interesting. I can't quite remember a lot about it, so it was quite forgettable. I gave it 3 stars, but it was interesting to a point. It was still interesting to find out more about empaths and how they work and things like that. My next read was, I finally finished a book, which is Chariots of the Gods, was called An Astronaut by Eric von Daniken. That's another non-fiction book and this kind of blew my mind. So I did give it 5 stars. It took me a very long time to read this book, but the last like 3/4 of the book I literally sped through it because I was so interested in it. I don't know why it took me so long. I started a few months ago and only finished it in December. But like I said, almost every page when I was reading it, like I started thinking about a lot of different things of what the book was trying to describe. But the concept of this book is so interesting. I know that it met a lot of criticism back in the day because I think it was first written in 1970s. So I think after that a lot of people would have written different books on either supporting his theory or saying that his theory is basically rubbish. But to me, I don't know whether he's right or not, but it's just an interesting concept. So basically, if you can't get from the cover, his suggestion is that God or gods could have been people from space, which sounds crazy if you say it like that, but actually he does give you a lot of different proofs, let's say. Well, they're not exactly proofs, but they are things that whilst reading that you really think, oh yeah, you can't say no to that because it's just a fact, and how else are you going to explain it? So basically it was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. It was fun to read this book and I'm always fascinated with space and things like that, so that just made me want to read more books on space, more documentaries to watch. So I need to do that. But it was really great. I thought it was a great book, and for somebody who's interested in different things and who is open-minded to different things like this, I think you're going to enjoy this book. So I had a really good time with it as well. And like I said, how he puts his theory, I think it's amazing. Like, I think he could be right in that. I'm not exactly a religious person. I wouldn't say I'm religious at all. And I know a few people might be against it really badly. But I do think there's a lot of sense in what the author is saying in this book. So I had a really good time with it. My next read was a tiny book, which is The Owl Who Was Afraid of the Dark by Jill Tomlinson. I bought this one in the Hawke Conservancy when we went there. It's a tiny little children's book and it's literally just about the owl who was afraid of the dark and all of the adventures that it went on and how things changed or didn't change. It was just a sweet little story. I've only given it 3 stars because it wasn't, yeah, it was just cute. It's a proper children's book, so I'm not the target audience for that anyway, but I don't have anything else to say about it at all. The next book I read in one evening, another children's book, which is Little Manfred by Michael Mapergo. It was another children's story. I know for sure now I enjoy Michael Mapergo's books. Like, I've read 3, maybe 3, and I enjoyed every single one of them. He just got this, I get him in a way that he's always writing about animals, and I love animals, and he always makes it so emotional that I swear in every single book I've read by him I cried, either from being happy or from sadness or a bit of both, but literally in every single book I cried. I'll read you the blurb of this one. Little Manfred always seemed more important to Mum than to anyone else, but I didn't discover why until that summer on the beach. It is the summer of 1966, and Charlie and her little brother Alex are walking their dog Manfred on the beach when they notice two old men staring out to sea. A chance encounter brings them together, and slowly Charlie and Alex learn of their mother's past. For in 1945, their farmstead home was a posting for German prisoners of war, and their mother, Grace, was just a little girl. It was a sweet story, also a little bit sad, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I gave it 3.5 stars. I thought I'd give it 4 stars, but for some reason it's 3.5. Maybe on Goodreads I've rated it 4. I can't quite remember if I'm honest. But it was great. It was really enjoyable. Again, emotions. He's great at making me cry. And he's great at making you care for the characters, even though you've not known them for that long. You still care for the characters. You get attached to them, especially like animals. And this was beautiful. Really enjoyed it. I highly recommend Michael Mapergo. And now I know for sure if I'm ever in a reading slump, he's great to go to. My next one was another audiobook, and that was The Lighthouse Witches by C.J. Cook. This was just like recommended to me on Scribd, so I started listening to it, not really expecting much, but boy, that was great. It does actually have quite a high rating on Goodreads. Out of 3,489 ratings, it's got 4.4 ratings, which is quite good. I've given it 4 stars, but actually it's 4.5. So let me read you the blurb. It's rather long, but just bear with me because it's quite interesting, I thought. When single mother Liv is commissioned to paint a mural in a 100-year-old lighthouse on a remote Scottish island, it's an opportunity to start over with her 3 daughters, Luna, Sapphire and Clover. When 2 of her daughters go missing, she's frantic. She learns that the cave beneath the lighthouse was once a prison for women accused of witchcraft. The locals warn her about wildlings, supernatural beings who mimic human children created by witches for revenge. Liv is told wildlings are dangerous and must be killed. 22 years later, Luna has been searching for her missing sisters and mother. When she receives a call about her youngest sister Clover, she's initially ecstatic. Clover is the sister she remembers, except she's still 7 years old, the age she was when she vanished. Luna is worried Clover is a wildling. Luna has few memories of her time on the island, but she'll have to return to find the truth of what happened to her family. But she doesn't realise just how much the truth will change her. Like I said, I didn't really expect somehow much from this book, but it surprised me in a really good way. I really, really enjoyed the book, especially the atmosphere. It was, like I said, on a remote Scottish island. I think it was done really well. And it was multiple perspectives as well, so we got a few different perspectives, which was actually quite interesting as well. It was definitely covering the whole picture of what was going on, and it was really quite interesting. At first they weren't like connected, the points of view, but then they started to sort of go together, and that was fascinating. I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all of the characters. I enjoyed the plot. The plot was definitely interesting. It's not anything like I expected. I didn't guess anything right, so I just really had a great time with it, and to the point that now I've saved another audiobook by her, The Nesting I think it's called, and it sounds great, so I'm definitely going to be listening to that in January on my commute to and from work, and I can't wait because I did have a great time. I think it's one of those books that the plot is so like intricate and everything comes together perfectly. In my opinion, that's why I've given it 4.5 stars. It was really, really, really good. The next book that I read was Shatterborn Academy Year 1 by G. Bailey and Scarlett Snow. This one I bought purely for my character prompts for the Magical Readathon because I'm a wildling and I needed to read a book with Fae in it, so I had to go on Goodreads and search for books with Fae in it because it's not normally something I normally read. And this one came up and I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. So this one is set in an academy for dark fae, but it's also paranormal romance, reversed harem, still can't remember, for people over 18. So I didn't know it was reverse harem when I went into this book, so obviously when we encounter a few love interests, I sort of rolled my eyes out thinking, seriously? But then now, knowing that's exactly what it is, now I'm currently reading the second book, by the way, in the series, because I couldn't wait and I wanted to find out. So yeah, I have given it 3 stars, but at the same time, I'm really conflicted about this book. It's really confusing. I'll get to it. It follows the main character and her best friend. Both of them go to the Shadowborn Academy, but considering it's for Dark Fae, nobody really follows the rules. That's pretty much it. But there's more to that. The confusion that comes, like I said, the amount of times I rolled my eyes out at something happening in this book is probably at least 10 times. And there were things that really annoyed me in this book. But at the same time, I've read it within 2 days, which for me is quite quickly reading books. I mean, it's not a big book, it's only 300 pages. But then also considering I bought the sequel pretty much straight after and started reading it, shows that I'm actually quite interested in the book. The things that really bugged me was the language. There's a lot of swearing, and in this specific book there were a lot of mistakes and like misprints as well, so I think it's a self-published book. That's what I kind of had a problem with as well. But also the main character, she's 18, but it just felt like she was 12 or something, and a lot of other characters, they were just acting in the way that they're so much younger. There's so much teenage angst in here, it's incredible. So those were the things that were bugging me, and also multiple love interest. But now, knowing what to expect from the series, I'm enjoying the second book already so much more, and I haven't actually found many mistakes in that one. So, I mean, I'm only 50 pages in at the point that I'm filming it. But the plot though, and the atmosphere, somehow the atmosphere, you know, I was kind of in the mood for something like almost old-fashioned YA fantasy series of books, especially that are set in school. That's like one of my favourite things to read about. And this kind of satisfies that need really perfectly, because the atmosphere of a school, I guess you can maybe call a dark academia book as well as paranormal romance. So yeah, the atmosphere is amazing. You can definitely feel all of this like darkness and whatever. And I also feel like this book is not trying to be anything else rather than what it is, if that makes any sense. So just what does what it wants. The authors, I guess, do what they want with it. It's just, yeah, I like it. And the plot as well. The plot is quite interesting. Second book is already focusing on something a little bit different. Not exactly what I thought, but hopefully I'm gonna enjoy it anyway. But yes, and it's not like, the first book at least wasn't steamy. There weren't any like steamy scenes or anything in this one. Maybe slightly, but not really. I think it's gonna be one of those series that I sort of binge one after the other. It's not like amazingly written or anything. I'd say it's simplistic writing style, a lot of swearing as well, a lot of teenage angst, a lot of multiple love interests, but that's actually quite refreshing to read about, at least for me, because I've never read anything like this before, and I don't really read stories with dark fae anyway, so it's quite refreshing, and I'm quite addicted to it, if I'm honest, as well. So I might even top it up the rating to 4 stars maybe, I don't know, but I feel like I might binge read that one. But the cover also, you can see all of the reflections and stuff, but there's the cover. I think it's really pretty, so yeah, that was a good one. And then the last book that I read in December was another audiobook, and that was The Boy Who Made the World Disappear by Ben Miller. I listened to the audiobook, like I said, and this is the second book by the author that I've read. I've given this one 3 stars because, again, I'm probably not the target audience, but I did enjoy it. Stories are often about a good person who does a bad thing, and this is no exception. Harrison tries his best to be good. He doesn't steal, he always shares with his sister, and he never cheats at board games, but Harrison also has a big flaw. He can't control his temper. So when he's given a black hole instead of a balloon at a party, Harrison jumps at the chance to get rid of everything that makes him cross. But when it's not just things he hates that are disappearing into the black hole, but things he loves too, Harrison starts to realise that sometimes you should be careful what you wish for. As you can tell, it's a children's book. and that's why I'm saying I'm not exactly a target audience for it, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was quite clever, and also the message that it passes on is great as well, and I think it's done really well. And it's quite entertaining to listen to the audiobook, especially considering it was read by the author. And there's, I think, something always charming about listening to a book that is narrated by the actual author of the book. I always enjoy that quite a bit. So that was nice to listen to. So yeah, it was just a nice book about a boy who made the world disappear. It was entertaining. It was lovely. I haven't got anything else to say, but it's a 3-star book. So yeah, these are all of the books that I read in the month of December. Please let me know if you've read any of these and what you thought of them. But apart from that, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye!